We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to We Say Things, episode 260. I had to double check on that. SUNSfan here with Cinderin with another beautiful episode. We've been off for a couple of weeks because of reasons which we'll get into shortly. But first, let's say thank you to our patrons in the In Bruges tier. Very, very thankful, of course, to 10 out of 10 Goldblooms, Malicious Damage, Shohei and Luca, Sleeping Like a Baby, LA and 5. Can't wait to keep reading that one over and over. Amish Toaster, see you in Raleigh, motherfuckers. No Matter Than a Hatter, Crownfall Enjoyer, Captain Broccoli, Suns Nugget Boy, STGC Daniel, Pepperballs, T-Coil, and Vlad, let's have Puppy on the podcast.
And Disco Farm D, The Mega Pope, Shark TM, Janie, Dop, Wooden Aftertaste, Anonymous, and ICQ launched in 1996, connected over 100 million users, but faded after AOL and Mail.ru acquired it. Mr. Niebling. Oh, I did not know Mail.ru acquired that. Or AOL for that matter. I do remember that being a pretty big site back then. But
I feel like AOL buying it was already dying because AOL Instant Messenger was killing it just by existing. It's just more popular.
So it's like Microsoft with Skype.
Not really.
Not quite?
No. I mean, Skype, you think Skype was going downhill when Microsoft bought it?
It was definitely not peaking when Microsoft bought it, was it? Maybe it
What were people using? Discord wasn't even out yet. Or was it?
No, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just...
You're just booming it up.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's chronology. Difficult.
True. This episode is in part sponsored by ESL1 Raleigh, ladies and gentlemen. You guys can go to the link in the description of the video. And if you purchase a Raleigh ticket, then we get money. So do that. That's going to be great for us. It is probably... I do a really good job of selling it. You can tell I'm such a good salesman. If you are planning to come, use the link. We will be doing, and we're going to be posting on Reddit this week at some point, I think, or next week, that we will be doing some sort of an AMA. We haven't figured out what day or time it's going to be yet, but we're definitely going to do, well, not just an AMA. Well, we'll do an AMA on Reddit, and then we'll have a live episode of the podcast at ESL1 Raleigh. Keep in mind, and again, it's not like I have inside knowledge, it's just my opinion. This might be the last NA LAN for a very long time, if not ever. So if you're on the fence about it, you're going to regret it probably, because, I mean, think of it this way, and correct me if I'm wrong here. The last NA LAN was Arlington, which was what? Was that 3 years ago? We're going to not include Seattle for a second, because I don't think TIs are going to be in Seattle anymore.
Arlington Major 2022.
2022. The one before that was Captain's Draft, which was 2018. That's January of 2018. So it was basically 2017.
So it's like an event every 4 years?
Yeah. And I strongly believe that TI will never be in... Again, I don't have inside knowledge. People keep thinking I do for some reason. I don't think TI is ever going to be in Seattle again. So this might be a very long time, if not ever, like I said, that there's a LAN in NA. So if you're able to swing it, then give it a whirl. It should be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun there for sure.
Yep. And it's pretty soon too. It's in like 2 weeks and a bit. So if you do plan on going, now is definitely the kind of last call almost to grab it. Not because the tickets go out of sale, but if you want to plan the whole thing, obviously, maybe don't do that 2 days in advance if you want to fly and stuff.
Do you see this picture, Cinder?
Do I see the picture? I do.
Look at this.
It's a lot of Liquid jerseys.
Tell me who this person looks like to you that I'm circling.
Loda.
What? That looks like Loda to you.
A bit.
Really?
I don't know. It's just a man with glasses and a cap. Can only be Loda, right?
Anybody else in chat? It looks...
Okay.
If this person had facial hair, it looks identical, and glasses. Remove the beard and glasses.
Okay. Remove the beard and glasses.
Yeah.
So then it's a dude with a cap and hair.
Okay, and who does he look like? I'll give you a clue. It's already been said in chat several times, so it's not just me. It's Quinn, man. This looks exactly like Quinn to me.
Really?
Yeah, like exactly the same. Oh. He's pogging. He grew a beard. Actually, he can grow a beard like this, I'm pretty sure. So he's had facial hair like this, I'm pretty sure. So it's really just the glasses.
I don't know. He doesn't look that much like Quinn to me, actually. I see it a little bit now, but God. I personally think he looks more like Loda than Quinn. And I think he doesn't really look like either.
What the fuck?
He doesn't really look like either.
All right. Well.
Shannon, we've talked about this. I took the facial recognition test and I scored really high. So
did I. So did I.
I scored higher.
That's not true. It was a binary system. It's either you passed or you didn't.
No, that's not how it was. It was a script.
All right, anyway, moving on.
There's a scale. You're also lying now. All right. You're doing great. Keep it up.
Yeah, I do lie a lot. Mm-hmm. I have a couple SUNSfan recommends before we get started, since we have a lot of Dota content today.
Okay.
They're both shows. First, we're going to couple this with the NBA segment in a way.
Okay.
I just realized it doesn't show the name of the show on here. That's okay. There's a show called... Is it... Nicky? Is it called Golden Court? Shit. No, Court of Gold. Okay.
Let me recommend this show that I don't know what's called.
It doesn't... We binged it in one day. It's only 6 episodes. It's a documentary. Court of Gold.
Okay.
Even if you're not a huge fan of basketball, it is extremely well done. It's about the U.S. Well, it's not just about the U.S. It's about the men's Olympic basketball run this last year. Okay.
Have you not recommended this already?
I have not, because it just came out and I watched it for the first time.
I knew that.
And it was, like they said, it was unprecedented access, which is true. And maybe it's in part because the producers are the fucking Obamas randomly. But you actually get like like locker room access videos of like a bunch of like all the teams that are participating. So US, Serbia, France, Germany, etc. And it is extremely well done. So if you have any remote interest in basketball, I would say watch it. Like Nikki is a casual fan of basketball. Mm-hmm. She watches the Suns games with me occasionally, or usually. She loved it. We binged it in one day, 6 episodes. Would highly, highly recommend. I'm not that big into documentaries, to be honest, but it was very well done. So give it a whirl.
Okay.
Can you name this player?
Saying that today?
What, give it a whirl?
Yeah.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you said it twice so far this episode. You also said that for going to Raleigh.
Yeah, they should give that a whirl. Can you name this
give
player,
it a whirl.
Cinderin?
Oh, I just saw it in chat, so now it doesn't count. I was trying to get around to it, but yeah, it's Steph Curry.
Would you have gotten it?
Maybe. I recognize this player. I recognize very few NBA players, but I've seen this guy before.
You've seen that dude.
I'm not sure if I would have come around to it. Yeah, we had a great dinner in New York, him and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
New York, that's definitely where he's from.
Yeah, well, can you not go somewhere else than where you're from? Is that what you're implying here?
The way you were just trying to throw a city out there as if, it happened to be the city he played in.
I know that one is in the States.
He is in a major city, though. He's in San Francisco. You know the name of that team?
Oh, that's also in the USA?
Yeah. Can you name the San Francisco team?
Yeah, San Francisco 49ers.
Close. It's Golden State Warriors, Cinderin.
Oh, I have also heard of them before.
Okay, good. Second,
they're featured in the documentary called, what was it, Golden Hour?
The Golden Showers.
Golden Showers, was it? Yeah. Jinx.
Yeah, that was a good jinx. Second recommendation, and I'm talking about this a bit when we were hanging out, because you haven't seen it, which is just typical, I guess.
Okay.
I recommended season 1. This is the best show on TV, and I know that things are subjective when I say that. It is as close to objective as it comes. This Severance is so fucking good, man. What a banger show. One of the best shows of all time.
So now it's in season 2 and it's still holding up to season 1.
Yeah, so season 1
was pretty rare.
It feels like it was like 4 years ago. It was a long time ago. There was a big break in between because of the strikes and whatnot. But season 2 finally came out, and the finale was last night. It was excellent. The entire season. It is very rare that Nikki and I will be so excited about a show that we will watch it right when it comes out. It was like a Game of Thrones type experience, if you want to call it that, like that vibe. Obviously, totally different show. I'm not even going to say what the show is about, but it's a mind fuck. You guys should watch the trailer if you haven't seen it, which I think most people would have seen it if I had to guess. But I think it's the best show on TV. And it's the best show in a long time on TV. So give it a whirl, Cinderin. Third time's a charm.
There it is.
Gonna make.
Do they by chance say "give it a whirl" in the last episode?
No,
is that where you have it?
I don't think so. I'll have to watch.
That would be really funny if it turns out they say that in that episode.
Yeah. All right, let's start with some Dotes.
Comes in many forms. Yes.
So,
Shannon, last episode. When was that? 2-3 weeks ago? Probably 2 and a bit.
A while ago,
I think. Yeah. So you and I have been in Bucharest, Romania, casting PGL Wallachia Season 3. But before we went there, we did not manage to conclude Dream League Season 25 because of the alleged DDoS issues, or whatever you want to call it, denial of service. Something players were attacked and could not play without mega lag, so the series was postponed. And therefore, we didn't catch up on our predictions. Now, if you guys didn't watch that last episode for everything else we talked about the tournament, we're not going to repeat it here. I will just, catch up on our scores in the prediction game, and then we'll move on to Wallachia. So, my predictions for Dream League Season 25. The top 3 were in order. This is what happened in the tournament. The winners were Team Spirit. Second place was Tundra. And third place was Power Vision. My prediction was first place Falcons. I get 0 points for them. They were not top 3.
Okay, good.
Second place Spirit. I get 1 point for them because they were in top 3. And Tundra, I put in third, which I get 1 point for as well because they were in top 3. So I got 2 out of 3, but none of them in the perfect placement. So I get 2 points. You had Tundra winning, which did not happen. So you get 1 point. And your other 2 are Falcons and Gaming Gladiators, who did not make top 3.
Never again. Never again.
My dark horse was your Colt Brothers reaching top 6. They got not top 6. They did not make it out of group stage 1. Shocker. And my white donkey was Bet Boom, not top 6. Bet Boom got 6th. Fantastic. You had dark horse, Bet Boom, top 3. That definitely didn't happen.
Yeah.
And your white donkey was Team Spirit, not top 6. They won the tournament. So it was close. They were almost not top 6, Shannon. Great job. All right. So with that, I catch up by 1 point, which puts me, you are now on 8 points, and I am on 6.
Boy, I really did extremely well at one tournament that's giving me this massive lead.
It's funny that your white donkey won the tournament, though. We have not had that happen yet. That's really funny.
I should get negative 10 points for that one. Boy. Yeah, okay. So Spirit won this, but this was the weird one where they had DDoSing and whatever you want to call it.
For what it's worth, that is quote unquote the correct result, if you will, because during game number 4 in the original play, Spirit were in a very dominant position, in my opinion, and were very likely to win that game. And then it was fully remade, and they lost the next game 4, but then they won game 5. So I think a lot of a lot of community disappointment was avoided by Spirit winning this. It would have been a different story if Game 4 hadn't started, right?
Yeah.
And it just got delayed or whatever. But when you're far ahead-ish, at least, then it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
If that changes around.
True.
Yep, that's Dream League. It concluded a while ago by now, but now we're up to speed with that. What do you want to talk about with Wallachia, aside from just the tournament itself?
All right, we can talk about our experience as well.
You want to talk about the studio?
Yeah, what order do you want to go in?
I think you should just start, because I've been there multiple times that you haven't, because the studio itself was new to you, so I think your perspective is more interesting.
Yeah, so I think the last time I did a PGL event that was not TI was Arlington, so that was an NA. And the time before that, it was like 20, maybe 17.
Damn, that's crazy.
So,
are you sure about this?
No, I'm pretty...
You didn't do any DPC from there?
No.
Okay. Because you did do DPC with me, some of it.
It would have been remote then, I guess. Either way,
Did
I
we
know
not do
for
a
a
single
fact.
part of DPC in person?
It's been so long, Cinderman.
Okay,
I don't know.
doesn't matter. Whatever.
Regardless, I visited their studio for the first time, and it's really fucking cool. It's a massive building. There's a lot of cohesion between, the production, then there's the talent area, then the player area, because remember they had all the players there. It was, there wasn't a crowd or anything, but for everything under that, very, very cool to see a studio that legit. And we got to meet Richard Lewis for the first time. Or I did, sorry.
You did, yeah. I worked one event with him before.
And I wasn't sure what to expect, but I really ended up liking him. He is... he reminds me, and I told him this, he reminds me of me, but a little bit more extreme version of me, if that makes sense. Like the one that would have grown up in Counter-Strike versus Dota. But he is fucking hilarious. I really enjoyed his stories. And he was a lot more... What's the right way to put it? A lot more left-leaning than I was expecting. But then again, I didn't really know that much about him beforehand. Just, things from the community, which there's always going to be... he's very polarizing, no doubt. But I thought he did a good job. And he's fucking hilarious. And we'll probably have him on as a guest at some point. I don't know when we want to do that. But
he can settle the score about Loda once and for all.
Yeah, we can hear the other side of that story, I guess.
Yeah. I think, you know what? If we have this episode with Richard on as a guest and he tells the Loda story, we need Loda on call as a fact check. Yeah. So he can press a buzzer and come in and be like, nope, that is not...
Aside from that, I was really impressed with... So again, PGL, I think, it was just Arlington, like in somewhat recent years. Otherwise, it's just been TI, and I feel like anytime I want to do something crazy, it gets vetoed. And in the past, I just, for some reason, thought that was mostly PGL, but apparently it's Valve. We could do whatever the fuck we wanted. I was cussing a lot. I showed up in t-shirts. And this is something I've been trying to do for years, where if we have a really long pause, I ask production, or can we just keep talking? Like, I'd rather just keep talking because it's just better content than going to a break, and it's just fun, Yeah,
we had like 45 minutes to an hour of tech issues, right?
Yeah. So
during one series, there was some PC problem or server connection problem, I think it was, with the switches.
And in the past, I've been vetoed, so we weren't allowed to do that. So I was expecting to get the same thing. But Seb, the producer, he gave us the okay, and we just went with it. It was a lot of fun. We
love Seb.
Yeah, Seb's incredible. They allowed alcohol on the stream. They allowed the branding of the alcohol on the stream. I felt like I was back in like the early 2000s where nobody gave a shit about anything, and it was fucking awesome. So I had a lot of fun.
Play-by-play casting, tea chugging the beer was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
It's just like, okay, so to set the stage for those who didn't see it live, effectively we're in a series, we're in game 3, it's getting pretty late, and then we have tech issues, and they just extend and extend and extend. And at some point, we're just being asked by production in the talkback. They're just talking to us, asking, hey, can we get you anything? I'm just like, hey, could I have 3 amaretto sours? And like, we couldn't find that, but we got you some beer. So just come in with beer on stream. And then shortly after, Tigov is bored out of his mind in the green room. So he just shows up. He's like, can I have a beer? I'm like, sure, but you have to drink it on camera. And then he just full on chugs it. It was a double Heineken or whatever. And you just cast it. It was great. It was a really funny bit. But yeah, I think it goes very far to show the vibe when you run stuff like that and like the overall attitude of the TO. And it's interesting to hear your perspective, because for me, this is way less surprising than it is for you. But that's because the distance in time, the gaps for you are much bigger. Because I've been at the PGL studio a few times without you, I think. I've been there alone as an analyst. I've been there casting with Lyrical once for DPC or something, I think. So I've seen the studio, I've seen the growth, I've seen the progression, and I've seen like the the old reputation, if you will, that the Dota community was giving PGL from, I want to say, a few years back, where it was like they just had lower expectations and there were issues and whatnot. I really think they've leveled up their game substantially.
Yeah.
So now it stands out that there is a tech issue, right? Like that was the surprise this time rather than the given.
Now that I'm remembering, I think literally every PGL event I've worked before this was a big LAN type tournament. So either TIs or Arlington, or there was the ESL1 China, not ESL1, sorry, the PGL Super China, whatever that was called. Then there was one where I was in Romania. That was like my first casting gig in a long time. It was like 2017, I think. So they were all like a little bit more serious. And this was in a studio. There's no crowd. And you're going to be more silly as a result, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, very pleasantly surprised.
Love the vibe of this, and I hope they dip into it a bit further, honestly, and just play more on the fun aspect. Not necessarily to the extent of something like a Dream League, right? Where Dream League very much is about like clowning around in the studio, co-hosting role, the whole social media corner, the charades and shit. Like it doesn't have to be on that level, but I think it was refreshing to just, get to goof around and just have fun. I think we all enjoy it. So.
And then in terms of stuff that we did while we were there, it was just the one thing, right?
Yeah, I made sure to get you to Therme, but
yeah, why don't you explain to everybody what that is?
I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before on the podcast, and I've told you have to go. I could be wrong, but essentially it's this big, this huge place. It takes a while to get there during traffic, and unfortunately we went on a Friday afternoon, which is probably the worst possible time. It was the first Friday of the month, so people had just got paid, and we went Friday late afternoon because rehearsals were over, and it was the one day we were sure we could do it. So your experience there for the first time was as crowded as I've ever seen it, with the worst traffic I've ever seen as well on the way. So that was unfortunate, but whenever you and I do something together, we get the worst version, whether it's a good restaurant that I enjoy or pools or whatever. You just bring out the worst in every situation, so I appreciate that. Yep. It makes me appreciate doing stuff without you, Shannon, because then I know there's a chance it'll be a good experience. But I honestly still thought it was great. So basically, it's this huge place that has tons of different pools, bars in the pools. There's an outside area. You go through a revolving door. Then there's outside pools with a lazy river with water beds. Inside, there's 6 or 7 different saunas with different temperature settings. They do these programs every half hour where somebody effectively just goes there and heats up the room, swings it around with towels. Like you get the idea of like this almost like ritualistic thing where they're like burning stuff on coals, whether it's like scented or not, and
with music,
blows out steam around the room. There's music, exactly. It's like a performance, and you're just sitting there sweating your balls off. So
just shitting there,
yeah, shitting your balls off.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you my experience with that? So we went in one sauna, right, and then we left after like 10 minutes, cooled off. Then we went to was it called the Phoenix sauna? Is that what it was? It was the hottest one.
So the first one, the hottest one was the first one we were in, right?
No, I thought the second.
I think we did 2 programs. The first one we did was the Bavarian one. That was 90 degrees Celsius. And then we went to, I think it was Alhambra after 75 or something. Am I wrong?
No, that doesn't sound. I'm pretty sure we went to the hottest one in the second. Anyway, so we
the
get
hottest
into
one's the Bavarian one. I'm positive about that. That's 90.
We get into the second one. And the performance is supposed to be at 7, and we get there at 6:50, let's say, like 10 minutes early. So we're in the sauna. It's already hot. We're in the sauna for 10 minutes, just sweating our balls off. People are trickling in. They keep trickling in. It's like 7:15. So it's been like 20, 25 minutes of us in this sauna already. And then it's just absolutely packed. Like literally couldn't even get down if I wanted. I have to like touch somebody's sweaty, disgusting skin to get down. So I was like, oh my God, can this please start already? So finally it starts, and then it gets even fucking hotter because they're, putting water on the coals and everything. Cinder, I was very close to passing out.
Really?
I was very close. We were in there
you did not tell me this at all.
We were in there for 30 minutes. And by the time we got out, like if it had gone literally one more minute, I would have had to walk out. But I was like very woozy, and I felt like I was drunk. Like I was.
Oof.
That was way too long. Well, I don't know why they started so late. It's supposed to start at fucking 7. It's like 7:15.
I have to say, I do not remember it this exact way. I do remember us sitting there for a while, but if it genuinely was that long, we should not have gone in that early.
Yeah, that was a mistake. But
Yeah,
it was. I mean, the entire experience was very interesting. It was cool. Like I could see it being enjoyable with way less people, and it's more of a not a private thing necessarily, but just just not bumping into somebody every fucking 10 seconds.
So what I would say is you were there for a couple of hours, and then you and Jenkins left, and I stayed longer with a couple of the others. And then later in the later evening hours, toward like 8, 9, people started gradually trickling out. So when we got to the late hours, like 9, 10, 10:30, I think we left at like 10:30. It was like very nice because probably about a third of the people when you were there during peak were left. So it was way less crowded. It was way more manageable, etc.
I was actually kind of pissed when we got out and I was about to faint. Could not find water to save my fucking life. In the U.S., I'm pretty sure that would have been illegal. Maybe not now that Trump's taken over, because nothing's going to be illegal. But I'm pretty sure it would have. Like you should be required to have a water fountain. Even just purchasing, like I had to go to a fucking bar to get water. Like, come on. I was in a bad mood though because I was about to faint. So maybe being a little harsh.
Very understandable.
But yeah, I got a Gatorade on the way out.
Now it also makes more sense when I was like, "Don't you want to stay any longer?" And you were like, "No, I'm good." You didn't tell me this at all. I was just like, "Oh, you and Jenkins have to go. You need to work on your game or whatever." I was like, "Hey, man, aren't you enjoying yourself?" You're like, "Yeah, it's nice, but we gotta go." Okay.
I didn't want to ruin everybody's vibe, you know.
You were about to faint. I understand why you wanted to leave.
I know that I'm a very negative Nancy, and I would have had more fun if there was less people, and I didn't almost faint, of course.
I will say, usually when we go, so this time around, I think it was different because I think we came in one day later for this Wallachia than previous ones. So usually there's this thing, we just call it Therme Thursday because it usually lines up well with Thursday. There's rehearsals. Rehearsals are over early afternoon, and then we have the rest of the day to spare, and then we go then. And then maybe if it's a longer tournament or whatever, there might be Thursday might often be the day that has tiebreakers because then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the finals weekend, right? So if there's any ties leading into that, that's Thursday. That could result in a day off or short day for other tournament formats. So it's kind of been a tradition at this point that we would go on Thursdays. And yeah, we went on Friday. So it was also a different experience for me. I completely understand why. I would say this is the time I was there that it was least enjoyable, specifically because of like just
because I was there.
It was. Yep. Yeah, that too. It was actually the same number of people as usual, just +1, which was you, and that really you like just tipped it over into it was too
one
many.
American just really sours the mood, you know, especially these days.
Bad. We'll go back another time though, I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, that was
cool.
It was had a good time overall though in Romania. And now we can start talking about the tournament.
Yeah, this tournament format's pretty compact, so it's not one where we're likely to go out for a lot of like different things. Also, we were on night crew, so we would get up, meet in the lobby, and kind of go. You know, I would go to bed late, sleep in late, and then get up and go. And you would wake up a little bit earlier, watch a game or two, and then head over. So, but yeah, there wasn't much time to go and do other stuff. So compared to other tournaments where we might go out for a dinner or two or see something in the city, it wasn't really feasible for this with the schedule that we had. If we were on morning crew, might have been different, but
yeah.
Okay, tournament itself. So this was a 16-team tournament in classic Wallachia fashion. It was Swiss to start. So the 16 teams get halved.
Which I really liked, by the way. I've never
Swiss
cast. Nice. I don't think I've ever cast Swiss before. I would actually
prefer the biggest strength of this format by far is that every series matters a lot. There's no dead games. There's no, it's round robin. You're in the final round. This game is survival for one team and the other one can just dick around and they're still first seed. So then it's like, if you're one of the other teams, you're like, this is kind of unfair because the winners can just not try because they're fine. And then ultimately the counter argument is, well, then you shouldn't have been in a position where you needed another team to lose. It's on you for not winning enough, which I think is fair, to be honest. But round robin clearly has some flaws. There's no perfect format. One of the weaknesses of this format compared to round robin is, well, you're maximum playing 5 different opponents out of 16. That's if you play 5 series, so where you go exactly 3-2 or 2-3. A lot of teams only play 3 or 4 teams in total in this. And then, well, maybe they just got some bad matchups, or they would have been better if they had more time in a round robin, etc. So, there's ups and downs. I personally really like this. I think it's good, and I think even if it has a little more margin for error, perhaps, compared to round robin, every series is best of 3, which I think is already eliminates a lot of randomness that BO1s.
Yeah, and I think it makes these big matchups against these really good teams much more hype because they may never face each other in the tournament again, as opposed to group stage, round robin, where you're always going to be facing these teams. So you get desensitized a bit, I feel.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, so this is how it went. 8 teams advanced. Those 8 teams were 3-0 score, Team Liquid and Team Spirit. 3-1 score were Gaimin, Team Tidebound, and Extreme. So both Chinese teams made it through with a 3-1 score. And then with a 3-2 score, Tundra, Falcons, and Aurora. So both Tundra and Falcons, this will be interesting later on, just kind of barely scraped by in the Swiss. It should be mentioned that they did 2-0 their last matchups dominantly, and a lot of the times this is one of the things where Swiss has a failsafe, is that okay, if there is let's say there's a clear separation between 4th and 8th, then when you get to between 4th and 12th, then when you get to the last round of the Swiss, the good teams should kind of just destroy. And because of that, the last round of Swiss was actually it was a really short day. It was just 3-2-0s, blowouts, all of them. But, that makes sense for how strong the teams were. So we go into the bracket. Let's talk about top 4. Lost? We can talk about top 4 and then China. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
So, despite being 3-1, both Extreme and Tidebound, they unfortunately for them got seeded against each other, or you could argue fortunately, because then one of them was guaranteed top 6. Extreme won that series 2-0. And then both of the teams lost all of their games, except Tidebound that lost 2-1 against Aurora. So they won an individual game, but they didn't win a series. So the Chinese teams got top 6 and top 8, respectively. Despite honestly looking very good in the Swiss and people being hopeful, could China be back? Nope. They were back for a couple days, and then they were figured out and kind of dealt with. The Extreme series against Liquid was very long, though, for a 2-0. Those games were very long. We were casting that. It was 55 and 60-minute games. So it wasn't like it was a blowout, but at the end of the day, the results weren't there. So China in 6th and 8th, and then top 4 in order. In 4th place, Team Spirit got 2-1 by Tundra in the lower bracket semis. Tundra then proceeded to face off against Falcons that had been 2-0'd by Liquid. Tundra then proceeds to 2-0 Falcons. And then Liquid in the grand finals in a relatively one-sided affair that we were casting, to be fair. Team Liquid 3-1 Tundra. And all in all, Liquid lost one singular game in the bracket, which was one game in the grand finals, and they lost one singular game in the Swiss, which was to Aurora.
Oh, they
Liquid
lost.
End this tournament 6-1.
They lost in the first round as well. The upper bracket.
Oh, am I looking at the bracket? You're right. They lost a singular game to Aurora. So it was only Aurora. They lost a game to Aurora in the Swiss, and then they lost a game to Aurora in the playoffs, actually. So all in all, they lost 3 individual games, but no series, which leaves their final score at 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, and 3.
Pretty good.
That's pretty solid. A worthy champion for sure. And the reason I mentioned quickly in the Swiss, I was like, we'll come back to the fact that Tundra and Falcons were 3-2 in the Swiss. In spite of that, they ended up top 3, both of them. So obviously it is possible to improve out of the Swiss and learn and just climb the ladder. But based on the Swiss results, you would not have expected the 6th and 7th seed to get 2nd and 3rd. Mm-hmm. The high scorers that failed were Spirit with 3-0, only got 4th, only, I say. And Gaming, Tidebound, and Extreme all got 6th, 7th, 8th with their 3-1 scores. So, yep, that's that. Great tournament. I enjoyed it thoroughly. We got to cast the finals together. That was fun. And obviously we had the fun 1 hour kind of podcast cast when there was tech issues. That was fun. So I enjoyed myself. It's always nice to be in the PGL studio. It's a good vibe. So, very nice. Let's look at some predictions, Shannon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how bad did I do?
Here we go.
Because I have no memory.
All right, let's start with Dark Horse and White Donkey. My Dark Horse, Team Tidebound, top 6, not happening.
Close.
White Donkey, Falcons top 4, not happening. They got 3rd. So I got 0 points. You had Dark Horse Aurora top 6.
Yes!
Which we agreed was the case.
Yes!
That would be Dark Horse. They got 5th, 6th, so you get 1 point. And then you had White Donkey Falcons not top 4, just like me. We actually shared that one. So, yeah, so that one is kind of insignificant. Okay, the top 3s. My first place finisher, Tundra, did not get first, so I get 1 point. They were in top 3. Then I had Spirit getting 2nd. Unfortunately, did not happen for me. And then I had Liquid getting 3rd, which was the champions, so I get 1 point for that. So I get 2.
That was a good one.
You had Spirit winning. Didn't happen. They didn't get top 3. Then you had Falcons in 2nd, which also didn't happen. They got 3rd.
Man.
And then you had Tundra in 3rd. Also didn't happen. They got 2nd.
So if we get those actually correct, the place, is that an extra point?
Yes.
Man.
If you snipe a placement in top 3, you get an extra point.
That's crazy.
But the good news for you is, Shannon, you gained a point back. So now you're ahead by 3 again.
Thank God.
Because you got an extra Dark Horse point for your Aurora prediction, which was, I mean, now that we've seen the tournament play out, not particularly surprising, but this was the first showing of this roster, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So top 6, I think,
saw
is a
lot
fair
of
Dark Horse
nightfalls.
performance.
A lot of nightfalls at this tournament.
Nightfall. Yeah, most of them weren't by him.
Yeah,
though.
exactly. That was the best part about it. He's learning, it seems.
Other people are BKB TPing instead. Yep. It's a good time, though. Nice tournament overall. Good job, PGL. And obviously, there is a lot more on the, there are so many more tournaments coming up this year. So there will be more PGLs. There will be more ESLs. There will be more blasts. There will be more fissures. This year is packed. So we will keep predicting. And I don't remember if we agreed to do this as a full year or split it in half. I suggested it last time. I don't remember what you said.
Full year's fine.
Full year? Okay.
Well, no, I think we said to TI, right? Because that's like the culmination, and then the new season starts.
Oh, did you suggest that? I don't remember this, but we can do it that way. That's
I mean, it just makes sense instead of having calendar year. Like, does it matter?
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. All right. That's Wallachia as far as I'm concerned.
All right. There are some roster swaps, Cinderin. Number 1, Doraccio is out despite getting 2nd place at this tournament. He leaves to take a break. I didn't look into this, but supposedly he's having triplets, but I don't know if
there
that's
were
true.
Different rumors. So my understanding, and again, I don't believe this was fully confirmed. I think the triplets thing was a meme, which is a pretty weird meme, but whatever. I think it was a joke. I believe he is officially taking a break because of he's not feeling the hunger right now and the motivation, so he wanted to rest and focus on other things, and then probably come back again when he is eager to play more again. I think that was what he posted himself, but it became a little bit of a mess because there were like speculations and people saying this, people saying that, different things being posted. Some were jokes, some weren't. But the rumor was that he was going to be replaced by Crystalis, and that is what happened. So that was true. Tundra announced Crystalis as their new carry. So we'll see. It's definitely a different style of player, but probably one of the closer ones you can get to Doraccio in terms of like aggressiveness. He's one of the more aggressive carries, but can also farm if necessary, similar to Doraccio on his Alchemists or whatever. But Crystalis is very eager to fight. He's a strong laner, which is, unless he has a bad matchup, who's a strong laner then, right? But I think overall, archetype-wise, with what worked for Tundra, he could be a good fit. And I think he's a little less... He pops off less than Doraccio, but he also has fewer face palms, I think. He's probably a bit more stable.
I think literally every player that's in the tier 1, tier 2 scene even has less face palms than Doraccio. But I'm going to miss that. That was so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Him just going in and dying and you just questioning your life. You know? So the other swap, I see that it wasn't official, but Nisha apparently is he's retiring. Was that ever actually confirmed?
I think so people were I think misinterpreting his interview, where after they won the tournament, I think he said he was retiring from drafting. That was how I interpreted it. I don't even think he's taking a break. But do you have another source on this?
No. I just
okay. Because
there was
think
also
the speculation, and misinterpretation.
There was also the rumors about Liquid having 2 players leaving, and I don't know. But they win the tournament.
I don't think that's.
They win the tournament. There was a lot of talk about Saberlight not fitting in. They win the tournament. He plays really well. So I guess we'll see.
I think they're making 0 changes. If they make any, it's that Nisha isn't drafting Nick's tournament. They've been passing that around a little bit, right? It was Insania. Then Boxy for a while, it was Mickey, I think. Boxy has drafted a little bit. Now Nisha did this tournament. Who knows? I will say, I was actually surprised, just based on my understanding of Nisha as a player and his overall approach to the game and in this team. I was surprised to see him drafting, actually. I've always had the impression that he was more of a not the big decision maker in terms of strategy, but leaned back, knows what to do, plays his hero, plays world-class Dota, obviously, out of the mid lane, and then he has always been under other captains and other drafters, right? I always thought he was not even, if you were like, hey, if Mika needs somebody to draft with, who would you pick in the team? I wouldn't even have picked Nisha as the second option, I would have thought, all right, he was more likely to go with Saberlight or go with Boxy than Nisha, because I just thought he was more hands-off, basically, with that stuff. So that was cool to see. And, I mean, they won the tournament, so clearly he did a good job, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't like
They obviously have coaching staff that helps a lot, too. Jabs was a big part of the success. So, but yeah, it worked. I don't know if he enjoyed it, though. That's the big question. Did Nisha actually like drafting? Does he want to do it again? Or was this kind of all right, experiment, let's try it this time? Kind of like nobody in the team wants to draft, so they pass the buck.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know. Seems a bit unstable.
It's definitely stressful. Most of these players they want to show up, they want to play, they don't want any extra responsibility. So, just how it is.
Drafting is a lot of work. So.
All right, well, final topic, Cinderin.
Yes.
Immortal Draft changes.
Oh God. Is it my turn now to go on a rant?
So, let me read this and then
before you
discuss. Okay.
Both of our predictions on when they were changing Immortal Draft were incorrect.
Not by that much.
We both thought it would happen in February, right?
Yeah.
But fuck yeah, was it worth the wait? Oh, wait. Well, you go ahead.
All right. So, Immortal Draft changes. Immortal Draft rules will now be used if any player is above 8.5k MMR, which is roughly the top 0.5% of players. Previously, the cutoff was 6,500 MMR, which was the top 1.5. Immortal Draft games do not show up in public match history. Replay access is restricted to game participants, and these games are not listed in web APIs. They haven't done anything like this, like mess with the APIs, like stuff in terms of what I remember, in a very long time.
Yeah, years.
Because I remember when I was doing YouTube content, they were doing this semi-regularly, and it was really annoying. Players who are above 8.5k MMR are now required to register an official name to queue for ranked. This name cannot be changed and will be displayed during the pre-game player draft phase of Immortal Draft games. Approximately half the players at this rank already have an official name registered. Players above 8,500 MMR who are guaranteed to play an Immortal Draft game may not queue for ranked as a party. Unranked is unchanged. Also changed the way MMR gain-loss works in Immortal Draft games to better take into consideration the possible outcomes based on player draft choices. So in summary, if your MMR is 8,500 plus, all of your ranked games will be Immortal Draft. All matches will be private. You're required to have an official name registered. You cannot queue for ranked matches as a member of a party. I'm not sure how often that was even a thing in the current form anyway, but you can tell me. Unranked is unchanged. If you're 6,500 plus MMR, your ranked games will only be Immortal Draft if matched with a player above 8,500 MMR. Otherwise, you'll play standard rank match rules, unranked, unchanged. So I feel
now
a rant
you may
coming.
ask yourself, in this edge case in the end, where someone 6,500 plus plays with someone 8,500 plus, how could that game be both public and private at the same time when Immortal players are meant to be private? And here's the answer to that. In the post-game screen, the 8500 plus player is invisible. It looks like the player was not in the game when you go to the match history, so he does not show up at all.
It's pretty impressive, actually, that they did that.
It looks like it was thrown in with a shovel. Anyway, okay, so this is obviously something that I'm affected by. So I was pretty passionate about this, and I had things that I hoped were going to happen. None of the things I hoped would happen did, and things that I didn't even know were possible happened. So let's start with this. So first of all, the matches are no longer public. This is primarily big for sites like Dota 2 Pro Tracker, where a lot of pro players and enthusiasts alike go to look up builds, see what the meta is. Okay, what are the pros playing right now? Oh, I feel like playing this hero. Is it good right now, etc. That is, for the time being, completely binned because all of those games are no longer accessible for the tool. And Dota 2 Pro Tracker was mainly following top, elite level players, but also some like tier 2, etc. to gather its data. So it just has nothing right now to pull from. So either that site needs to now be Dota 2 medium tracker and go with up until 8,499 MMR, or something has to change with this setup because it can't pull these games. So that's the one thing. Now the question is, why did they do this? And there's a couple of different theories. They obviously haven't announced in this why they made the changes they did. They've just said what they've done. So now we can kind of speculate what the ideas are. So there's a couple of different angles. Angle number one is they are doing this to incentivize pro players to play on their real accounts instead of Smurfs, because now they don't have to worry that all of their main games get parsed. There are certain teams that have had players play almost exclusively on Smurfs, and some teams that have players never play on Smurfs or a mix. I think Valve's ultimate goal now is they can queue on their main. When they get in the game, people will know they're in the game. They will get picked, but there will be no like centralized place to find all their games. The other thing is, if you're a high MMR streamer, you are now one of the few people in the world that has access to your game. So you can now potentially monetize it. You can make guides. You can, I don't know, like pro players and streamers are already memeing with selling their replays. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, whatever. You can imagine where this potentially is going. It's no longer party queuing eliminates, or at least very strongly, this is the biggest positive in all of this, is that very strongly discourages win trading, which was a big problem in Immortal Draft, where two people would queue together as friends. They would get in the game, they would get drafted in opposite teams. One guy would throw, the other guy would win, and the guy who wins uses a double down token. And then you generate MMR out of thin air, which is a very big part over the last year of why MMRs have inflated so much, because even if quote-unquote honest players don't do this, given enough time, when everyone else inflates, if you're better than the inflated players, you are now in turn inflating over them. When more normal games get played, you kind of steal their points, right? That they didn't deserve to begin with. So now you have more than you should have had. And it spirals. So that was not ideal. So that's a good... it's a solution to the problem. It is largely, I think, going to do what it wants to do. So that's good. It comes with a massive asterisk, though, that you can no longer queue with a friend. If you were an honest player and you just wanted to play with a friend, I, for example, myself have been party queuing sometimes. I just can't do it anymore. So if I want to play with a friend, we queue at the same time, and we hope we get in the same game now.
Or unranked.
The ideal setup for me here to suggest a different solution would have been, if you queue as two, I've mentioned this before, but I'll just reiterate it as quickly as I can. If you queue as a party, I think you should separate this Immortal stuff into two pools. There's a 5 versus 5, where you queue as 5, and there's solo/dual queue. I believe this is how League of Legends has done it for a very long time as well. I could be wrong, but I think you can duo queue or something, but you can't queue as 3. Either way, if you queued as 2, you are guaranteed to get in the same team. So when Immortal Draft starts, either one of you is captain and the other one's automatically in the team, and then the pool is generated. Or when you have the Immortal Draft screen, the two players that are in the party together are linked. So you have to pick them as a duo. And then if nobody picks them and you get toward the end of the draft, then whoever is the last captain with 2 slots left has to pick those 2 over the remaining player. It's pretty simple to set up, right? You could have easily done that. That way they can't win trade because they're always ending up in the same team. I think that's very straightforward. But then you can argue, is it unfair that you can queue as a party when most other people are solo queuing? If that is a problem, I think you just add a coefficient to their MMR. So if let's say they're both 10k, you queue as a party, your MMR is now 10.5. Then you have to overperform your rating. And that is like the quote unquote punishment for being a duo, is that you're expected to do better because you are friends or something, whatever. There was a way to experiment with that. Didn't do that. Now, this has got a lot of negative backlash. I know I'm weaving a little bit here, but it's got a lot of negative backlash around the whole Dota 2 Pro Tracker, because a ton of people's enjoyment in this game is very much about copying pros and trying stuff that is working at high level and trying to implement it in your strategy to get better at the game. It's a very powerful and constantly available tool of information about what other players are doing. And that is now gone. The question is that good or bad for the game, right? Because let's say you're a 6,000 MMR player and you no longer have access to the pro stuff. You might not flat out just copy their ideas anymore because you don't see them all the time. You don't have this massive stats pool of what they're running. So you might come up with your own ideas. You might do something that totally fails. You might come up with something genius. And it also means that the people that you're surrounded with in your games don't hold you to the same standard because the standard doesn't exist anymore. So you can't be like, wow, this guy's an idiot for picking hero Z when there is no frame of reference that this hero sucks. So for Valve, this is probably a good thing because now it doesn't feel like the patches will get figured out as quickly by the pros, and it will create more diversity in lower ranks. I think that's overall should be seen as a positive thing. And among the top ranks, it's probably also going to be less obvious what the meta is. So probably pro teams that enter into tournaments, the individual players will be less figured out. So you don't necessarily know, oh, this guy has been practicing a lot of this hero in pubs, because you don't see that unless you're individually playing in the games. But then it comes down to, all right, well, who has access to the replays, right? If you're a team that has... All right, to give you an example, let's hypothesize there's a 15,000 MMR player that's not playing for any team, but this guy just spams pubs like crazy. He's going to have a lot of footage on the pros. He can now technically go to the teams and be like, hey, I have a lot of data. Or if you're playing for a pro team, it's the incentive now that you play a shitload of pubs so that you get data on other players. And then what do you do in your own games? Or you're like a little bit paranoid. Should I just pick something I'm not really going to play in pro, and just try to fish for info? Right. Like, I don't know. It kind of becomes its own meta game, right? But I don't know. In conclusion, for me, nice that they're trying to combat win trading. I believe there's also, I didn't mention this is potentially also to target people genuinely selling results. So there's been like this whole... I believe this has in particular been in other regions, but I think also in Europe, people just throwing games for money. I think that'll be a lot harder to incorporate with this as well. But I don't know if that was a primary concern when they did all of this. Yeah, but I'm going to miss being able to dual queue.
Yeah, I think with something like this, it's probably impossible to find a solution that just fits every need, right? And I feel like my opinion is irrelevant, but since I'm doing this podcast, I can use my take or whatever.
That's not irrelevant.
But I also think I'm kind of neutral on it because I'm not in the Immortal Draft anyway. I think on some level, the idea of just copying what pros do was a negative for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We've talked about that, like, I don't know how long ago it's been, but not that it was a big topic necessarily, but I think being able to think for yourself, like come up with new innovative stuff is very cool. That's what makes these games fun, is trying to figure stuff out on your own, or using a template, but maybe that template is, still a rough draft because it's not a fucking pro player. So that means you're going to be getting a lot of information from tournaments. So kind of the same thing with the Swiss format that we were talking about. Same idea that you're getting desensitized by all this information that's out there. You have something, listing X amount of games with this build. This is the correct choice then, right? Whereas now you're getting a smaller sample size of tournament games, which is very small sample size. Like a hero will be played like 5 times sometimes, and it could be really strong for that player. So I think that is a pretty big positive, but it's kind of impossible to tell like what kind of impact it's going to have. It's going to be one of those after 6 months, then maybe we can assess, Yeah. So I think that's kind of cool. But then the rest, not being able to play. I mean, yeah, it sucks that you can't play duo queue. Maybe there's a way to incentivize people to play more unranked somehow. Like nothing's been done with unranked, right? As far as I know, in the last however many years. I don't know how you would do that necessarily, but for people like yourself, yeah, you're the top whatever percent, but it does suck that you can't just play the game for fun, right? I mean, for you, would you have fun? Is there any scenario where unranked would be fun for you? Like, is a lot of it, like how much of that percentage are you wanting to play is because the number goes up?
I think unranked would be fine if the queue times were low, and if people. That's the problem with unranked is leveling investment in the game, right? I think that's what will always be tricky about that mode is, like, let's say you just queue as 5 individuals and you get an unranked game instead of a ranked one. Some players will care more than others. And you could argue the same for ranked, but at least the base level there is, at least when you reach a certain part on the ladder, people are playing to win, right? And to climb. And to prove themselves or stay on top or whatever state they're at. If you're playing unranked, people could literally, some people just queue to dick around. I mean, you know this for yourself. When we make a caster stack at a Dota event and we go in QS5, some people just want to go AFK for 10 minutes and have a cigarette out on the balcony.
Is that Pyrian Flax by any chance?
It could be anyone, you know. Not a cigarette.
And others get really angry and buy 5 boots on Venom.
So somebody just wants, somebody's just dicking around having fun and just wants to, click some buttons and yell at people and whatever. And who am I to say that's the wrong way to play, right? I'm not here to be like, that's wrong and you're an idiot. But it's hard to find 5 individuals that go into those games and then have a totally leveled expectation of investment. How hard are you going to try? What heroes are you going to pick? Who enjoys playing with each other? Whatever. When you play unranked, that's kind of tough. And obviously, as things have gone right now, the unranked queue is longer because there's fewer high-rated players that play unranked. And unless you can convince a big chunk of them to all do it collectively, the game quality should just be way worse, right? Because the algorithm has to search way wider in terms of skill to generate an even functional game. So I don't know. I mean, Dota used to be unranked only. Before ranked existed, we had great unranked games because everyone was playing unranked. So you were playing against high-rated, it was hidden MMR, because MMR wasn't a thing back in 2012. We were just being thrown into games. You would recognize people you played against all the time, and people were just playing to get better and have fun and win. But yeah, I don't know how you do that when you.
And maybe there's no way to do it. Are you surprised they didn't normalize the MMR at all?
Yes. So this was the second thing that I really thought should happen, and that I still think will happen. I just don't know when. Is some sort of, let's just call it clamping of MMR. It's like, because of what happened with the double down token and the extended period of time that this was allowed to happen for.
Wait, do they still exist?
They still exist. I don't know if you can obtain them anymore. I don't remember if you can still buy them. But if you have them, they have not been voided. I think you still hold on to the ones that you bought, and you might have to be allowed to do that for legal reasons because Valve sold them, right? So if they sold you that product and it wasn't clearly specified that they had an expiry, they might get in legal trouble if they just disappear or something. I don't know. Okay, but it's a possibility that's why. But anyway, double down tokens are a problem, but if you can't win trade as easily anymore, it's less of a problem. It's still not a zero problem, but it's becoming more tolerable in that case. The thing about the MMR is just that the range has become so extremely wide that when the numbers all inflate, ultimately the thing that matters, in my opinion, is not the number, it's your relative rating on the leaderboard. And that will just, follow along. But the problem is with these massive distances, first of all, players catching up takes an eternity. So let's say you're a good player. Let's say you're a really good player. Let's say you were 10,000 MMR 2 years ago, which was very high back then, or 3 years ago. And you're like, you take a break or you do something else. I know this is a minority, but just as an example here. You come back, and now your old 10K is probably now 13K in terms of relative leaderboard placement, but your MMR hasn't followed. The amount of games that you need to crush through to get to where you were is a long ass grind. Is that a problem? I mean, not necessarily, but it probably means that a lot of the games that you go through, you're indirectly smurfing, right? Because everything has moved. And it's moved inorganically. And that's just my take on the whole situation, is that genuinely the majority of players in all of Dota, their MMRs are inflated. Even at lower skill brackets, things have pushed, things have moved. There's a reason Immortal Draft was just bumped up by 2,000 because such a huge percentage of players have high MMRs. It's kind of self-explanatory, right? So what if everybody just lost 25% of their MMR? And then you just call it a day. Everybody retains their relative leaderboard placement.
The problem remains is that there's still a bunch of double downs that exist, right?
Right. In my perfect world, double downs are eliminated, but perhaps they can't do that for legal reasons, right? Let's say they can do that. Then fuck them. Get rid of all the double down tokens, right? I don't like them. Just get them out, and then I'm not saying 25% is the perfect number. It's just an example that's easy to grasp. Like somebody who's 15k MMR loses 25%. You could also say 20. Then they drop from 15 to 12k, which was like a super high rating 3 years ago. Then they're kind of back where they were. Because at this point, the ratings are just crazy. And I think it does introduce some potential problems where when this is artificially inflated, and then especially if accounts change hands or people were exploiting the system to get high up, the relative impact that a griefer or a win trader or an account buyer or whatever has is massively higher, the bigger the number is, right? Because then they underperform even harder compared to the actual number.
So I'll say this is also, it's also possible, because look at the page that we're looking at. This is a small update page, right? It's not like a blog post even. It's not a big event type thing. It's possible this is a small part of a bigger thing to come. Who knows?
It could be. Absolutely could be.
So would you say, because it sounded like before we started that you were going to go on a huge rant, which to some degree you did for you. But I thought it was going to be a lot more negative, actually. Like in terms of, let's say there's a neutral here. Is this a net positive or negative versus what we had a week ago?
It's a net positive, I think, versus what we had. For me personally, because I do think it's better for the game that Dota 2 Pro Tracker is not the holy grail of what is right and what is wrong in this game. So I think that personally, I'm okay with that. I know that's what most people are negative about, because the vast majority of players aren't in this bracket anyway, so they're unaffected by every other change, right? So it's the one thing that's going to hit them, and they don't like that because they like to know where to look to find info. I get it. I empathize with that, and I understand it. I don't think it makes the game better.
How does watching players live? I actually did not test that today. Can you still watch high-level players?
I think you can watch friends.
You can watch friends.
I could be wrong on this. I'm actually not positive, so I'm not going to put my name on that. But I'm assuming, I don't know what restrictions there are on passing around replays. I think you can send replays to anyone as well. So if you've played in the game, you can send them to someone. It's just you can't. All the online tools that just mass parse replays can't operate.
I mean, obviously the big negative here is this sketchy ass black market of replays or whatever is going to end up happening over time. That's weird.
It could be interesting.
Maybe Valve care about it, maybe they don't. Like we've seen so many instances where they don't give a shit about extracurricular crap like that, right? I mean, the workshop is a great example of that overall.
What else? So if you want my overall conclusion, I think the biggest letdown for me is that they didn't change Immortal Draft itself, because that was what I was hoping for the most, is either a better implementation for dual queues to function better in the Immortal Draft as another way of combating win trading and still being able to play with friends, which I think is a pretty big part of Dota, you know? It's fun to play with someone you know. Queue up together, have a strategy, have an idea, play a lane together, you know, run whatever, you know.
Oh, that's what Smurfs are for now.
Yeah, well, that's great. Not being able to do that sucks. And then I just think the Immortal Draft system itself is just a failed experiment. I just don't think it has done what it set out to do. I think it hasn't worked. They could have just scrapped it entirely as well. I personally would rather try that and see how that is, and then be like, are we all just wearing rose-tinted glasses here and it actually sucked before Immortal Draft or whatever? But I genuinely don't really think Immortal Draft made the game better in Immortal. And I know I'm not the only person with that opinion, obviously, but I don't know if it's the predominant opinion. That's the thing. Like, maybe if you ask the majority of pros, they think it's better than it was before. I don't know. But it's definitely very controversial whether this, or very polarizing, whether this was...
So somebody in our chat, Mr. Scruffy here, is saying you can only watch friends live or under the watch tab on Dota. So you can still... So on the watch tab on Dota, you can only watch friends that are high level? Is that what that means? Or is he saying you can still watch regularly? Because it wouldn't really make sense for you to be able to do that with these restrictions, right?
If you can watch with the watch tab.
You know what? I'm going to open Dota. You guys aren't going to be able to see it. I'm going to just
I'm actually unsure about this.
Because this is
one thing I forgot about. Total conclusion for me, it's honestly kind of neutral. Some things are better, some things are... I mean, I guess nothing is truly worse than before. It's just less good than I was hoping for. When I heard there was Immortal Draft changes, I was like, oh, I wonder what it is. Then I opened it, I was like, oh. So. But like you said, this could just be step one. This seems like...
Okay, I'm in my watch tab, and I see 0 player names that I would recognize. It's so I guess you just can't. It's just these are probably, I would assume, under 8.5K.
Is there any immortal medal on any of them?
Yes.
Well then, is there any over...
when you say medal, you mean there's a number on the immortal thing.
Is there a number on any of them?
I see. Okay, so...
I think EU West 5,000 is about 8.6K.
I don't remember what it looked like, Cinderin.
Okay.
But before, I thought it was the immortal, like the Aegis, and then a number in it. Is that not how it lists in the watch tab? Because right now I see just the Aegis for most people, and then there's one guy has a number that's just a badge, but it has nothing to do with an Aegis. But it's 1430 is the one I see. So maybe that's the way it looks now, or maybe it always.
I'm in the watch tab right now, and I see plenty of numbered players, including GPK, Miposhka.
Okay, and you're able. Do you have them on your friends list?
I have. I mean, I guess I have to check in the game whether I have any of the players on friend list, right? Technically.
Yeah.
I have at least one on friend list here. I'm not sure.
I see a rank 27 player, actually.
Yeah, and you can watch that game.
I'll be clicking it once it loads game data.
It doesn't load game data, just double click it. It never loaded for me, you just double click and brute force your way in.
Okay. You guys are going to hear Dota sounds.
Does that work for you?
Ends up loading.
Okay, I'm in a game now where... Okay, I'm watching one... No, I have one on friends here.
I'm in game. I need to check if anybody's on my friends list.
If you mouse over their icons on the left, it will say not friends or ranked : level whatever.
That's because I have fear on my friends.
So maybe the games I've tested so far, I've had at least one player on friends in the games that I could see.
Okay, yeah, that sucks.
I mean, I can keep trying. Maybe I was just unlucky.
I mean, I was gonna say
maybe I'm just friends with everyone.
It wouldn't make sense to be able to watch it with all these other restrictions, right? It would defeat the purpose. So it makes sense, but we didn't talk about that as being a major negative. Is just watching it live.
Damn, Gorg is 3-0. This must be a crazy game. All right.
Like, I feel like watching it live would, I guess it would completely defeat the purpose. I was gonna say maybe it's just the replay that should be restricted, but yeah.
Yeah, judging just going off of memory in the watch tab, it looks a lot more limited for me than it was recently. So I do think it's only offering me the games where I know someone who's in the game.
Yeah, crazy.
But then what are pro players going to do now? Start selling a friend list slot or what? Like, what is this?
Yeah, that's...
Wait. No, that was one I knew here. That was close.
A close one.
I get through 9 players and they're all not friends, and then the 10th guy is on the friends list, and that's why I see it. So I'm pretty convinced now you have to at least have one player in front.
All right, I think we have reached the end of the podcast. So all in all, slightly net positive the changes, but nothing. A lot of it we won't know for like 6 months. I think this is one of those slow burn type of deals. So
I think the biggest winner in all of this is either the pros. I'm torn whether it's the pros that are the biggest winners, the ones that want to keep their strategies hidden, or if it's the rest of the Dota population that are not part of the Immortal ecosystem, where they think it will be great for them to constantly look toward what pros are doing or whatever, but I think this genuinely might increase game quality because people are less tied, have their hands less tied by meta and what everybody thinks is the right way to play.
The thing is, I'm not saying that the patch is fully solved right now, but so many builds exist that will still exist because it's only been, it's the same patch, whereas X amount of months or even years down the road where these huge ass patches come out and you don't know what's going on. That is where it's really going to be interesting. Part of me feels like I wish they had done this before this massive patch, because then that would have been really good data, you know?
That's true.
But yeah, interesting to say the least. Okay. Yeah. I believe we're doing a podcast next week.
I believe so too, Shannon.
I believe I will not be jet lagged by then. So that's why we're doing this early today. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Until next time, SUNSfan Center signing out.
Bye-bye.
We say things that don't mean anything.
Subscribe.
Thanks for